2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 to 15. Page 940 in our worship Bibles. Today is also Kenosha Family Church's Stewardship Sunday. And so that too is kind of setting a theme for today, especially for the scripture reading and for our message a few minutes later. Remember this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work, as it is written, "They have freely scattered their gifts to the poor, their righteousness endures forever." Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion, and through us your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. In this service that you perform is not only supplying the needs of the Lord's people, but is also overflowing in many expressions of thanks to God. Because of the service by which you have proved yourself, others will praise God for the obedience that accompanies your confession of the gospel of Christ, and for your generosity in sharing with them and with everyone else. And in their prayers for you, their hearts will go out for you because of the surpassing grace God has given you. Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Well, this is serving as our Stewardship Sunday today. And I wanted to speak this year, to this day, on the idea of the biblical foundations of tithing. Now, some of you tithe, some of you don't, and that includes those of you watching on YouTube. So depending on who you are or where you are in your spiritual journey, this can kind of be the why behind your practice of tithing, or this could be the reason why it's something that you ought to strive toward or work toward. So I want to begin by a couple of very simple definitions, and that is, first of all, the word tithe as a noun. When we talk about the tithe, that literally means a tenth part, or you can think of it as a fraction, 1/10, as a percentage, 10%, as a decimal, 0.1. Those are all the ways we represent, or many of the ways we represent a tenth in our modern age. Most of the time we don't call it a tithe, we call it 10%. But if you need to see that graphically, it would look like this. The one part that's circled would be the tithe, or the tenth part of all of that. So that's what a tithe is. It's 10%. But let's look at the word tithe as a verb. As a verb, it means to give a tenth part. And so a tithe is 10%. To tithe is to give 10%. And then there's also the word tithing, which is also a verb. For you English gurus, I'm told that's present participle. But that basically has the idea of ongoing action of giving a tenth part. So to tithe is to give a tenth part. To be tithing means that it's something that you do regularly. It's your habit or your pattern. It's an ongoing, you do it this week, you're going to do it next week, so on and so forth. So that is what it means for tithing. And so I want to begin, as we've talked about biblical foundations, I want to begin by just giving you some background information from Genesis chapter 14, verses 1 to 16. And I'm not going to read it, I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of what's there. Abraham has left his home people, his homeland, brought with him, of course, his huge household, which when we think of our household, you know, at my house there's two of us, two more in the extended family that come over a lot. And, but Abraham had, you know, there were hundreds in his household as the patriarch. And so Abraham has already left his homeland, and he's moved into the land of Canaan, really, and is surrounded by Canaanites. And at that time, the standard political system was to have a bunch of city-states. So every city would have its own king, and they would kind of rule the city and the surrounding land around the city. And as is often the case, these cities would go to war against each other. And so the story in Genesis chapter 14, beginning at the beginning, is the story of 4 kings of these city-states and an alliance of 5 kings from some of the other city-states. They've been going to war with each other, and they're back and forth, and they're fighting, and they'll attack one city and then attack another, and this, that, and the other. And finally, the attack takes place in which Sodom, which you're familiar with in other Bible stories, is attacked by this coalition of kings and is defeated. And they haul off the treasures and some of the goods and some of the people. They capture and take off with them that's going to end up in slavery and that sort of thing. And Abraham's nephew Lot is one of them. He has moved into the city of Sodom, and when Sodom is conquered, he gets carried off. And so Abraham decides, he gets wind of this and says, well, I've got to go get Lot back. And so he gets together a coalition, not so much of kings, but of some of the other tribes not unlike his own, and pulls all these men together. And they take off after this coalition of kings that has captured Sodom, and they defeat them. And he gets Lot back, and he gets the treasures back. And so that kind of sets our story for where I want to start reading. Genesis chapter 14, beginning with verse 17. After Abram returned from defeating Kedar Laomer, or something like that, and by the way, all of those kings had weird names, long names, so that's a good reason to have not read them all to you. The king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is the king's valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to the God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. And so that raises the question about the mysterious Melchizedek. And by the way, for a long time in my life, that was Melchizedek. That's how I had heard preachers say it. That's how I had heard Sunday school teachers say it. When I read it, that's kind of how I read it. And then I got to seminary where I had a Hebrew professor who said, no, that's Melchizedek. That would be the way the Hebrews would say it, sort of. They would actually have some guttural, but Melchizedek is this guy. But we have not heard of him before this. He just shows up out of nowhere, and there he is. And he's told that he's the king of Salem. And so that's the first thing we know about him. What it doesn't say there, that everybody, of course, who knew Hebrew would have known, is that means king of peace. Because Salem came from the same word that gives us the word shalom. Like the Shalom Center, and like when the Hebrews say shalom to one another. It means that peace, or have, be at peace, have wholeness. And so he's the king of peace. Have you heard anyone else referred to as the king of peace? Anyone? Who else is called the king of peace? Jesus. You might not know that Salem was later renamed Jerusalem. So the city of Jerusalem was the outgrowth of this original city of Salem back in Abram's time. There was no Jerusalem yet, and it got renamed and it became Jerusalem, which is where, of course, God had the temple built, and it became a very important representative of God's presence and where he was. And then we're told, literally, that he was the priest of God Most High. And so I think all of those put together kind of gives us an idea that Melchizedek is really representing God. He's serving as an agent of God. He is God's representative, kind of a forerunner of Christ. And I've talked in the past about that idea of typology, where something is its own thing and it's true, but it represents a much bigger truth that's coming down the road. Melchizedek was kind of a type of Jesus. He was the King of Peace, and what happens is when we get to the book of Hebrews, we're told that Jesus is a priest in the order of Melchizedek. And that goes on to be explained that, part of that means that Jesus wasn't born into the tribe of priests. The Levites, and then Aaron, through the Levites, Aaron's descendants, became the priests of the nation. And the book of Hebrews says that Aaron and the priests were still in Abram's body when he gave the sacrifice to Melchizedek the priest. So this priest wasn't one of Aaron's descendants. He was a priest of a different nature. And then in the book of Hebrews, we're told that Jesus was that kind of priest. He was without, and then Abram actually gave offering to him. And the lesser always give offerings to the greater. But I want to draw your attention to the idea that in verse 20, the second part of that, this section ends with the words, "Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything." And so, Genesis chapter 14, way back then, Abram gives him a tenth of everything. And what's interesting is that that's kind of when tithing is born, that we're aware of anyway. And there's no record of a command. We have no record of Abram being told, "I want you to tithe to Melchizedek." It's just not in there. Back when Cain and Abel were giving sacrifices, there's apparently no record of them being told to do that. It just kind of rose up and became the pattern, or became the habit, as if it was spontaneous. If they were giving other offerings prior to that, it's not recorded in Scripture. We don't know about them. And so this is where, according to what has been recorded in Scripture, that the practice of tithing is born. Abram, having succeeded in this battle, having achieved his objective and rescued Lot and the spoils that had been captured, they returning, gave 10% back to God, Melchizedek as his agent, partly as a way of thank you. And Melchizedek had made it very clear that Abraham succeeded because God delivered the enemy into his hands. It was God's doing, not Abram's doing. So that is kind of, from a biblical foundation point of view, that's the birth of tithing. A few hundreds of years later, we are in the book of Leviticus. Chapter 27, verse 30 says this: "A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord." And so they are given instructions here and in other places that they are to take 10% of their gain and give it back to the Lord. And so notice that it says that it actually belongs to the Lord. And so technically, it's not even ours to give. God has, we call this stewardship because, to be a steward is to be like the caretaker or manager of. All of this stuff that we have, whether we've worked for it or not, like Abraham went to war, but it was God who delivered the enemy into his hands. We can go to work, but God gives us the ability to work, and it's all of God's in a way. But the 10% is reserved to stay with God. It's His, and we are supposed to give it back. Kind of an odd system, one might think, but there's reasons for it. And so this 10% belongs to God, and we're supposed to give it back to Him. Which brings us to the book of Malachi, the last book in the Old Testament. Chapter 3, verses 8 and 9 says this: "Will a mere mortal rob God? Yet you rob me. But you ask, how are we robbing you? In tithes and offerings. You are under a curse, your whole nation, because you are robbing me." And so by the time we get to the book of Malachi, this tithe, which has been commanded, has been elevated to the extent where it is taught that if you're not tithing, you're robbing God. Think about that for a minute. It begins with that rhetorical question, will a mere mortal rob God? That seems absurd. 15 years ago, approximately, give or take a couple of years, this was still a vacant lot, and we had an old riding church mower that we would park way back up against the fence of our neighbors back here and leave it, because we were responsible to mow this lot because we owned it even though it was vacant. And someone stole that mower. And when I would tell the story from time to time, people would always say to me, "I can't believe they would steal from a church." Well, we just kind of automatically have that instinct. If you're going to steal, don't steal from the church. The second church that I pastored, I hadn't moved away very long when some people broke in and stole all the sound equipment and some computers, or a computer, and in the same response, and the really sad part that broke my heart was it was some French church teens. One of the mothers was a regular member, and he and his buddies came in and did it. They got caught. But we kind of instinctively know you don't rob the church. By extension, you don't rob God. And yet God says, but you're doing it. You'd think you would know better than to do it, but you're doing it by not giving your tithes and offerings. And He tells them they're under a curse. And I think that based on what comes next, we can get an idea of what the curse is. It was kind of an economic curse. In Haggai, he describes a similar curse where he talks about, you put your grain in the storage bin and you go to get it and it's half gone. You put wine in the vat and you go back to get it and it's half empty. And the stuff that you have gets moldy and mildewy and you got to throw it out and the rats get, and all this stuff. And the reason I say that is because even though robbing God comes with a curse, not robbing God by tithing cancels out the curse, but actually brings blessings. It's not just that you don't get the curses, you actually get blessings. And so I want to read Malachi 3, the next few verses. Verses 10 to 12. After telling them that they're under curse because they're robbing Him, He says this: "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. I will prevent pests from devouring your crops, and the vines in your fields will not drop their fruit before it's ripe, says the Lord Almighty. Then all the nations will call you blessed, for yours will be a delightful land, says the Lord Almighty." And so that blessing, on the one hand, He curses them by having pests and nature and all these things kind of destroy your efforts and damage your efforts. But after they begin to tithe as a nation, he begins to bless them. And I always think, you know, when people talk about not having enough money and resources to do the right thing, and this includes nationally, I think, you know, if we would do the right thing, God would provide the resources.
Amen.
It might not work out on paper the way we imagine it. You know, oh, how can we afford to pay for this or that and help them or that? Well, if we would be doing that, you know, God would be multiplying and helping our economy, and things would be going better.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how the Old Testament ends. Tithing was born in the middle. It's commanded. It gets elevated to the point that not doing it is actually considered robbing God. And that brings us to Matthew 23:23. This time it's Jesus talking. And he's been having some issues with the Pharisees, who were very legalistic, hypocritical type people. And in part of his getting after them, he says this: "You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter." And so here's Jesus telling them, you know, tithing's important. You even tithe on your spices. So think about having a little herb garden out back, and you go out and you harvest some dill. And you kind of clip it up, you know, and they would separate out a tenth of that and make sure that that went to the temple. They're even taking those little things like that small amount, and tithing on it, because they want to be careful. But then he says, even though you're doing that, even though you're being nitpicky to where you even tithe on spices, you don't practice justice and mercy and faithfulness. And you should have been practicing justice and mercy and faithfulness. But you know it doesn't end there. There's a comma there instead of a period, and there's no quotation mark to close that off. Because that ends with, without neglecting the former. So he's really telling them, I'm not knocking you for tithing on your spices. You ought to keep doing that. But you can't neglect being faithful and merciful and serving justice while doing that. The tithing ought to still be done. And so we really pick up two things from that. One is that Jesus affirmed tithing. And then, by the way, says it doesn't make up for other stuff. So some people want to get the idea that, you know, I don't have to do this or that, and I can get away with this or that because I make up for it by tithing. You know, I write a big check to the church, and so it doesn't matter if I don't love my neighbor, and so on and so forth. But Jesus points out that, you know, you got to do the other stuff too, but also keep tithing. So, short message, I want to review briefly. Tithing was born in Genesis 14 when Abram tithed to Melchizedek. Tithing was actually commanded as a rule or law or edict in Leviticus 27, and I will add in other places. You can read about it in Deuteronomy and other places. Not tithing was considered robbing God in Malachi 3, and tithing or not tithing made the differences between curses or blessings. Now, if God is going to curse me or bless me, I'm thinking I would rather have the blessings. That's just me. It's probably not just me. And then tithing is affirmed by Jesus in Matthew 23. There are those who say, well, Jesus came to abolish the law, and you know, well, he came to fulfill the law. And the truth of the matter is, as one author put it, the only biblical basis against tithing are those making the argument of over-tithing. Somebody said, you know, like we get the idea that tithing is the ceiling. We want to give up to this point. That's where we need to give to. But they say the true logic is that tithing is the floor. That's just kind of the automatic, you do that. And then the other offerings, we usually use the phrase tithes and offerings. The offerings part is above the floor. And so, for example, if you make $100 a week, and so you're going to tithe $10, and then we have shopping for Shalom. So you go to the store and buy $5 worth of groceries. You don't come in and say, okay, now I'm going to tithe $5 because I put tithe into the Shalom offering. See, the Shalom offering is supposed to be your offering above your tithe. The same is true with our Thanksgiving offering and alabaster, and those are offerings, building fund, above and beyond the tithe. The tithe is, they use the term often, storehouse tithing. That goes directly to the church. So here's the challenge. If you're not already tithing, that is regularly giving 10%, then set a goal and make a plan to rise to that biblical standard. So it might be that your goal is, a lot of people, they get themselves into financial trouble. They spend their money in certain ways, and it's hard to make a big change instantly. You got to pay off a debt first, you got to do this and that, but make a plan that, you tell yourself, I want to be tithing within 6 months from now, I want to be tithing within a year from now, I want to be tithing within 3 months from now, and make a plan. I'm going to stop doing this or that so that I have the money. I'm going to pay off this debt so that I can afford to do that. Whatever you need to do, set the goal, make the plan, and here's what I believe. If you make the plan and work the plan, God will begin blessing you in such a way that you'll beat your goal. If your goal is 6 months, God will help you do it in 4, or whatever the case may be. That's what I believe. The scripture's not quite that mathematical formula is that. It's more general and fluid than that. But tithing is a blessing. In my life, I have no recollection of not being aware of tithing. I don't know what age one becomes aware and has memories, 4 years old, 7 years old, whatever. But back then, it was my family practice, it was my church practice. If I got $8 of cash from a variety of things, from birthday presents or whatever, 80 cents of that was being taken to church and putting in the offering. When I was in high school, I was making $13 every 2 weeks for my paper route. $1.30 went to the church. And then, suddenly it's like, I had a job back in high school where I was making $80 a week. And in the mid-70s, from where I had come from, that was a massive amount of money. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm supposed to give $8 to the church? That's a whole lot of money. And then, nowadays, people who make $50,000 a year or more, that's $1,000 a week, which means $100 a week should go to the church. And it's like, man, I can't afford to give that much. In His divine planning and wisdom, God chose a percentage amount rather than a dollar amount, so it is the same for everyone. If you're making $10 or $100, your tithe's either $1 or $10, and the ratio is the same. So there's the challenge. Let's pray. Father, we do thank you once again for your word. Lord, some of us have been tithing, and we've been told that we should, but maybe, Lord, today you've helped to show us a little bit more as to the why behind that biblical foundation for it, and our need to do it. Others, Lord, who are being challenged today, Lord, give them the courage and the strength to make this plan and make this effort and bless their efforts and help them to be able to do it, Lord. That they would, as your word put it back in Malachi, you said, test me in this. Lord, we don't test you in many ways, but here's a specific example you told us to, that if we would do our part, that you would do your part. And so we ask, Lord, that you would help us to rise to the standard, and we will give you the praise in Jesus' name. Amen. And I have a big slate of announcements today. Again, as Don pointed out, we're getting into that holiday time, that holiday season, and we just have a lot of things happening. And so we want to make sure that you get your calendars clear and ready and all of that before you forget too much stuff. So we begin by reminding you that November is Shopping for Shalom Month. And we have our Shalom shopping basket at the back corner back there. And it's doing pretty well. We're halfway through the month after today. 2 more Sundays we'll collect that, and I'm sure, based on what I see, we'll be overflowing the cart. But bring your stuff over the next 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, we'll deliver this stuff to the Shalom Center, so they'll have it for December, and then we'll put the cart away till February. We want to do it, we'll skip 2 months, do it a month, skip 2 months, do it a month. So that's our new pattern. This is also our Connect with One Another week. We talk about once a month we want to take a week out and be especially intentional about connecting with one another. Either a card, a letter, a phone call, a visit, whatever it might be. Connect with someone in the church family with whom you would not otherwise be connecting with this month. If it's somebody that you call every day anyways, don't just call them and count that. Try to make a special effort, someone different for the connecting with one another. And a good topic for Stewardship Sunday, I suppose. Next week we are receiving our annual Thanksgiving offering. Again, as I pointed out, this is supposed to be above your tithes, not taken out of your tithes or instead of your tithe. But we want to raise extra money to help us meet our responsibility to world evangelism. God tells us to make disciples out of the nations, and most of us can't do that literally. But we still have that obligation. We do that by providing financial support and prayer support, so that somebody working as a delegate for us, our Nazarene missionaries, can be paid and have the money to be flown over there, whatever it might be. So next Sunday, Thanksgiving offering, just designate it Thanksgiving, or you can designate it WEF for World Evangelism Fund, because that's where the money's going. Next week is also our Thanksgiving dinner with Amigos in Cristo. We will gather here at 4:30. Everyone is asked to bring a main dish, a side dish, or dessert, a side dish or dessert, and a 2-liter soda. There is now a sign-up sheet at the Welcome Center. That came in this morning about 8:30. Sarah from Amigos came in and talked to me and asked if she could put it on the counter. And I told her that unfortunately, we have some ladies gone up north that would be signing up stuff. And so I'm not sure how complete it would be. But to give them the best ideas we can, please sign up today if you can for what you intend to bring. And they have their sign-up sheet, without having talked to us, is divided up into main dish, desserts, side dishes, and drinks. And so you can fill it out if you can. And we want to try to have as many here as we can. We didn't meet last year, and of course they have a new pastor, and we want to kind of reestablish some of that connection with them that we've missed out on since last year. The Saturday after next Sunday, Thanksgiving, in about 2 weeks, we're going to have our annual decorating for Christmas time. We have traditionally done that in the mornings, and primarily because of Robin's work schedule. We're going to experiment by having that in the evening this time, and besides that, Amigos is already scheduled to have a handful of people here at 8 o'clock, and so we talked to their pastor about maybe they can come early and whatever, because we want them to be joining us, the more the merrier. And so if there's only 3 of us here, it'll take a while. If there's 10 of us here, and 10 from their church, we'll get done in a hurry. So decorating for the church, Saturday at 7 p.m. on November the 27th. And then we have the ladies' Christmas party, which Debbie Groshek is waiting here in queue to come and share more than what's on the screen.
So we have ladies' Christmas party coming up on Monday, December 6th. If you can believe it, this is our 20th anniversary of having ladies' Christmas party, so kind of a monumental year for us this year. Bailey Wyatt has put together some really beautiful invitations, so if you would like to pick up a few, I know she's working on more, so I've got, I think, maybe 15, 20 of them here today. Come see me afterwards and pick up an invitation, but otherwise mark it on your calendar and be sure to be here.
And to clarify, these aren't to invite you. We're doing that here and now. These are for you to use to invite someone else.
Kim?
Is it December 6th?
December 6th.
Is a Monday.
So it's Monday, December 6th.
So the day's long, the date is right.
Yep.
Okay.
Monday, December
But
6th.
invitation.
Thank you.
Apparently last year it was a
I
Tuesday.
got one.
So I copied and pasted that. All right. Our men's Christmas edition fellowship breakfast will be December the 11th at 7:30. So men, don't feel left out. The ladies are going to have their party. We're going to have our party. That evening, the all-adult Christmas party. We are going to have that back here again. Again, having missed that last year. Actually, I think we missed that last year. We encourage everyone to bring snacks, bring a 2-liter and a white elephant gift. And you know, our white elephant gift have evolved a little bit. Pretty much the garbage stuff has stopped coming. And the focus has seemed to move on toward humor and fun stuff. But we'll have the nasty Christmas style exchange where you get to a special waiver to steal from one another for the evening.
So what do I do with my garbage stuff this year?
Well, except Jim.
I was gonna bring my scraps of fabric.
Somebody might find it as a treasure.
That's true.
A dog bed.
And then this year, we've done it off and on over the years. We're gonna have what we're calling this year Christmas Care, Caroling in Culver's. And so the plan is everyone who can, we're gonna get together and Christmas carol, driving to some of our church shut-ins. Those who aren't able to get out, we'll go to Ida's and Joe and Nancy's and Donna's, and there's a handful. And when it gets to be about noon in the middle of that, we'll all go to Culver's and enjoy Culver's lunch and then go finish up the couple of places, or one place that we haven't gotten to yet.
Oh,
So that's the plan for December the 18th. Well, we'll start at 10 a.m. So, be here by 9:45, kind of a thing. And then we'll have a good day that time and bless a few people. And then we will also have our regular Christmas Eve worship here at 4 o'clock on December the 24th, which is a Friday this year. So plan to be here on Friday at 4 p.m. if you want to take part in that. Again, 4 p.m. seems like an odd time. That was strategically chosen so that you can do your Christmas shopping in the morning, be here for service at 4, and then still have your evening free for your family Christmas Eve, or whatever you do on Christmas Eve. Our tithes and offerings we're collecting at the back in our offering box, so if you haven't already done so, please do that before you leave this morning. May the Lord bless you as you go out to serve Him and be a good steward of His stuff. You are dismissed.